Good morning.
Good morning.
Or at least it's morning. And it's Friday, so that's good.
The Friday of a record-breaking week. I think we are so lucky to be where we are because the stupid stuff I'm seeing other brokerages are doing are driving me crazy.
100%. 100%. I see some of it and I'm like, I am so glad that, 6-8 months, you're not going to be around to be a thorn in my side anymore.
My favorite one yesterday, I forgot who shared it with me, said they wrote an email to our agent saying, our broker hasn't decided how we're going to handle this yet. So I don't have a commission agreement for you, but I can tell you that my listing agreement says 2.5%. I'm sorry. If you don't have a broker that's teaching you what to do things, there's no excuse because Stellar was teaching you, FAR was teaching you, NAR was teaching you. Yeah, look at that look, Tracy. Oh my God, really? How could you not know?
Yeah.
You live under a rock.
Right. Not to mention that you have all these para real estate companies that coach companies, they have all had free seminars on it too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted the information, it's out there. If you didn't want it and you wanted to sit with your head in the sand, that's where you are. And that's not a good G long term.
Nope, it's not. You are frozen, by the way. Yes,
I am.
Broker or a new profession. No, you're back. Oh, you're in and out.
Yeah, it's been a trying morning. That's why I was here so late. I should have just tuned in from home.
All right, let's jump in because I've got like 10 or 12 items. So what I'd like to do on Master the Contract Fridays is talk about issues that we came up with during the week. Because if somebody comes up with an issue, chances are somebody else has it too. And I'm not going to call anybody out. It's not the purpose of this. It's just to talk. So number one, Rachel, you sent me an email yesterday morning with 4 topics on it that you've come across, which ironically, they landed on my desk too. So a lot of you guys are calling me and then calling Rachel, or calling Rachel and then calling me, or calling Rachel and then calling Kathleen, or Kathleen's calling Joe, and we're just going around and around. But basically, you're going to get the same advice from all of us. So an issue came up twice this week with short-term rentals. Now, I understand that we want to take care of our customer, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So if our customer
And
decides,
sometimes that means we're not the best fit for them.
exactly. Right. I went to my vet with my dog, and the vet said, Craig, you really need more extensive work than we can do. And they sent me to another place. Right. Was I pissed off with that? Say, why can't you handle this? I said, no, thank you for being honest with me and putting me in professionals' hands. So let's talk about short-term rentals for a brief moment. What has to happen for a short-term rental to work properly?
Well, they need to be micromanaged for one thing.
Well, they're going to be marketed. So how do you market a short-term rental generally?
If you're not hitting the VRBO and Airbnb and all of those travel sites, which don't feed from the MLS.
Correct.
Then
And
you're
you also
not.
have to pay for them. My
Yeah.
VRBO account was $750 a year. So that kind of shoots your whole year's worth of commission away on one website. So that's one thing. Then you have to handle all the bookings, schedule them in, schedule them out. You got to arrange cleaning crews to come in before they get there and then after they leave. And then, of course, the toaster's going to break and they're going to bitch about that. So you got to solve the toaster problem. And, there's companies that do that. And those companies are charging 20 or 30% of the rental. And our sellers are going to our agents saying, hey, would you do this for me? I'll pay you $150 a booking. It's just not worth it. And then it's illegal for you to receive money because the money has to come to the brokerage. And honestly, we just don't have the bandwidth in the financial section of a company to handle these little deposits for short periods of time, waiting them to clear, and then, or do the process of credit card transactions. It's just, we're not set up to do it. So stop asking us to do short-term rentals because it's not.
The questions we have, because they weren't planning to manage that, but you made an excellent point that if we're not advertising on VRBO and Airbnb and Travelocity and those other websites where people are looking for hotels and short-term rentals, we're not really getting them the audience.
Yeah, and you're fooling yourself.
So we don't really
You're not
do.
managing it.
We don't.
You're the one they called. You're the one
Right.
who called them. You're probably the one who's going to give them access to the property. When something goes wrong, they've got your number. They're calling you. So this is a favor for you, not a punishment. All right, an email came across my desk, and yours, the FEMA delays. Okay, Ron DeSantis ordered a state of emergency for Florida as a result of Tropical Storm Hurricane Debbie, right? Why does the governor file a state of emergency? Do you know?
So that he can have services ready to mobilize immediately after the storm. That's why the people who were hit by the flooding, they already have those resources that are mobilized to help them, and it allows the structures to already start to be in place to come through as soon as it happens.
Yeah, it's really to get federal funds. The
Mhm.
federal government will provide funds if it's an emergency situation. So if the governor doesn't declare it an emergency, we don't get any federal funds.
Right.
So it's
And
all
it also allows them to mobilize the National Guard should we need it,
correct. Yeah.
like that.
So we get to use federal resources, and that's the most important thing for that. So what that means is some of you are going to be asked by a lender. Now, if the lender's like in California or Colorado or something, and they hear there's a hurricane in Florida, what do they think?
Complete devastation.
Oh,
Everybody's
the whole
underwater.
state is destroyed, right? Disaster everywhere. I mean, I'm not bragging, but my pool had a couple leaves in it. Had no damage. I mean, it was fantastic. But the lenders don't know that. So don't be surprised when they call you and say, hey, we need you to send us photographs of the property. And I've got another property that was destroyed. Just a big oak tree, boom, a big oak tree,
Ooh.
right? So don't be surprised when the lender calls and says, hey, I need photographs of the house. I want to make sure it wasn't damaged. They're going to want front, side, rear, and other side, at least. And if it looks clean and nice on the outside, it gives them warm fuzzy. And then they're going to have you sign something. What's it called?
A letter of attestation.
Yeah, you're going to attest that this is the right house, and you're going to kind of swear by it. That you didn't need anything or photo op it or anything like that. So don't be surprised.
The unusual thing that I saw this time, because I've seen those before when we have hurricanes, usually you take the picture, or they have the owner take the picture and sign that letter of attestation to you. Now they were asking for one particular instance, they asked for, originally they told her that the seller, the agent, and the buyer would all have to sign that. And then when it came back through, they got it done to where she could sign it, acting on behalf of her seller who was not here. But that was a good thing. And our agent did the right thing by saying, hey, is it okay for me to sign this? Because she is representing the brokerage. And as long as you took the picture and you can't see any damage, they're not asking you to be like an appraiser. They're just asking you to say, hey, here it is. There was no damage to this house from the storm as far as we know.
Right. Local lenders will probably, send a loan officer out to look at it. And because some are not allowing photographs. But it's just something we have to deal with that you need to know. And if it comes up, you deal with it, right? The golden rule, right? He who has the gold, the bank, makes the rules.
Makes sense.
So we can bitch and moan, but it's not going to do any good. Just comply, make it happen. So FEMA. I wrote a clause. I'm going to go back and forth through this because we're going to turn this partially into buyer broker agreements and exclusive right of sale listing agreements, just because things have been unclear. We're going to get a little more clear. So I'm going to have this put into Dotloop. Which screen do I want to share? Let's do this one. Not that one. Screen. Oh, I just saw it in my inbox. It actually corrected to me. Dotloop clause. This has been added to Dotloop for you, right? Sometimes I'm seeing people write things that are not proper. So, the clauses section, when you get to additional terms, you can insert a clause. It's a little tiny
Those
icon.
things are so nice.
Yes. So seller.
So anybody, we have one for Paramount Title, to choose Paramount Title. We have one for the transaction fee. And now we're going to have one for putting the commission into the contract.
Yeah, there's a couple more in there too. We have different things in there. But
yes.
If you just start typing seller, it'll find it for you. So this is in the case where your buyer is asking the seller to pay their buyer broker compensation. Now, I've heard this a lot, and it's not proper, guys. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's the commission's in the concession amount." That is not the purpose of the concession column. Period. The agents are doing it and brokers are telling them to do it, and it's not right. Okay.
And
So,
that will 100% get you in trouble with the DOJ because
yeah,
they made that very clear. Concessions are not commission.
right. So if you want commission, you ask for commission. If you want concessions, you ask for concessions. If the seller is offering concessions, right, and you don't need their concessions, well, then you know you got enough money to ask for a buyer broker fee. And how much should your buyer broker fee be? As much as you can get. So here's very simple language, but look at the very important words. Seller to credit buyer blank percent of the purchase price at closing to compensate buyer's broker. All right. As we're not asking the seller to pay the buyer broker. Now let me get back up. This is going to be really clear. Under paragraph B, where seller pays buyer broker, that's all the new contracts going forward. This is the clause you're going to use, right? If you want commission. Credit, seller to credit buyer blank percent of the purchase price at closing to compensate buyer's broker. Super simple, easy. All you gotta do is put the percentage in there. Okay, but you got to put the percentage in there, right? And that's gonna be super clear. The seller is gonna say, okay, I'll credit the buyer. The title company will take money from the seller's column, put it in the buyer's column, then the buyer's column is gonna pay our commission, right? And the more I think about this, the more I think we need to be asking for 3% almost all the time. You can always go backwards, but every time I'm seeing right now, everything I've seen so far is 2.5% or more. So let's go for 3, see what we can get. Because remember, you could be the double sider too, and then you get 6. So that works for me on that one. Boom, boom,
And
boom.
even over here where our standard, if you looked at the average offerings on the market over the last year or so, they have been at 2.5 over here. We're still not having a trouble getting the 3% now that we are representing ourselves to the buyer.
Yep, I love it.
So, and they don't have a problem paying for value when you demonstrate value because they want someone who's going to represent them, have their back, and do right by them, and who understands all these things.
Correct. Okay, this email I got this morning from Lauren. She says, this is a great practice, sending out the compensation agreement when confirming a showing. Great practice, right? And
That is a great practice.
here's what he sent, but I want to show you. What you say is important. Seller's broker. This is a seller's broker to buyer's broker. I don't know if that's their policy going forward or they're doing what we're doing and they're just taking the old listings and going to keep them the way they are. But this is seller's broker paying buyer's broker. Seller's broker is Keller Williams. The property is Green Violet Drive. The term is 30 days because he left it blank. I don't recommend leaving blanks. I don't think it's professional. I think you should put a number in there. I don't mind 30 days, but I think you should put a number in there. Buyer's broker compensation.
At hurricane season, I think we probably ought to put 45 just in case we have delays, right? Of course, if it's under contract, you're still covered, but.
Right. Well, it just puts they're going to have to re-up it. We're not, because if we get commission to offer, we're going to offer it. So,
Right.
buyer's broker compensation, they said 2.5% of the gross purchase price. And this is where it gets tricky. Plus, right now we're in a hiatus on not charging the transaction fee. I mean, the MLS fee. But it looks like other brokers are charging it. And this is how they're doing it. And this one's not the way I would do it, but 2.5% is great. We know we're getting a 2.5% commission as long as our BBA allows us to get 2.5%. But it should say something more than other terms, MLS fee of $395. What could you say?
That actually, if Kat's on this morning, she should weigh in. The way that's written, it looks like they're offering us another $395 for the MLS fee.
That's what I think. Right.
So
other terms, buyer broker to pay MLS fee of $395, right? By who, by when, by who and what in this case. So buyer's broker to pay listing broker an MLS fee of $395. So if we are going to start doing this again, we'll say listing broker, buyer broker to pay listing broker MLS fee of $425. So that's probably a change we're going to see, but I'm going to start looking at these as they come through. And then it's signed by the broker and it's coming here to us. Now, what they did is they initialed the arbitration clause. So these are the things I want you guys to look for. We're not going to initial this clause. And if we don't initial it, is it a valid clause or not?
No.
Nope.
All parties have to agree.
Yep. So That's it. So what could be done differently in this one? Just make this more clear. Buyer broker to pay listing broker MLS fee of $395. Right?
Yeah,
And
words matter, and the way you word things matter.
Yep. But I like this. So when you're confirming your showing, send over your compensation agreement. Boom. Nice. What else we got there? We did the commission clause. Oh, you're the one asked me to break that more clear. So I think we did that. Oh, this is a good one. Can a FSBO hold escrow?
They can, but not if they want my contract.
What is escrow?
People can
An
do a
escrow
lot.
agent, by definition, is a neutral third party. Is the FSBO seller neutral?
No.
No. If the
Does
seller,
he know that it needs to be held in a separate account? Does he know that if it bears interest, he has to take account of that?
actually,
And
those
once
are
we
real estate
explained all
commission
that,
rules. That's not.
oh, that wouldn't apply to him.
No,
Oh,
he's judge and
well,
jury.
then definitely we're not giving him any control.
Right.
So,
He's judge and jury. So he decided the buyer's wrong. He's going to keep their money, and good luck getting it from them.
yeah.
So the answer is no. FSBOs don't hold money. You give them to the title company, a third party, a neutral third party. Yeah, for now, Tony, we'll probably change that by next week, but I want to talk to the managers about it. But I'm going to look at these agreements, or get Sammy to help me look at these agreements. So we'll go from there. Okay, we did a good practice.
And Jennifer did bring up an important point. She said that any property that accepts FEMA help, whether you're in a flood zone or not, you're going to have flood insurance going forward in perpetuity. It stays with the property.
That's right. I'm looking up a text real quick.
So while he's looking at that, have you guys had any issues with the buyer broker agreements, getting people to sign for the 3? Everything going well with that?
Chat in on that one, guys. Let everybody see what you're doing, because what I'm hearing is.
Yeah, Lauren is rocking it. And I have found that most people like having a better understanding of what's going to work and how it's going to work. Oh, I love that, Jen. I try for the 1 year as well, because you never know how long it's going to take to get somebody.
Yep. Jennifer Birdsall got 2 signed this week, 3% for 1 year each. Wow. Good. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again, show you this text message.
Michael, he actually is allowed to dispose of his own property without and so he was saying the FSBO is practicing real estate. He actually can do that for his own property.
Correct. He just can't be compensated in his own transaction. Okay, good morning. Too long to type into a chat. I called a listing agent yesterday to confirm if they were accepting FHA because all the financing fields were left blank. Not a good idea. While I had her on the phone, I asked if compensation was being offered. She said her broker said, don't disclose this information. She said that her broker said, add in the concessions as a dollar amount. This is advice that brokers are giving their agents. He said this way the seller can look at the net offer and not have to offer buyer broker compensation if not needed.
If not needed. Oh, good. Well, anytime we want a buyer's agent, let's call him so he can work for free.
Yeah, it's raining here again. Amazing. Okay, so what is wrong with that one?
They're not giving.
They're hiding the
buyer
commission in the concession fee. You can't do that, right? And if the buyer broker, now this is where it becomes incumbent on the buyer broker to say, hey, my buyer has to pay me a commission and they want me to ask you to pay it. And we're gonna actually pay commission. Now we know you're willing to offer concessions. So make part of your concessions our commission. We're gonna use our clause and be proper with it. All right.
Right.
The next one, and this is a good one. Here's an example of text messages agents are sending out prior to showings. Hey, Crystal, I'm looking forward to showing your property at Iron Mountain today. Is there a buyer's broker compensation being offered on this home? If yes, what's the amount? If yes, is the seller or the listing brokerage paying the compensation to the buyer's broker? If no, is the seller negotiable on this aspect? from Katie from All Real Estate and Investments. So that's good, but I think it'd be better if we just sent a commission form, because that answers all those questions. You know, so the commission offer compensation form.
So if our agents are asking about a showing, we just send that form? Is that what you're saying? Did I
Yeah.
misunderstand?
No,
Oh.
we send the form. Why go through all these questions here? Just when you confirm your showing, say, send a reply to her text and say, I'll send you this offer of compensation, which is a much better thing. The seller will have already signed it. It'll say if selling broker is paying buyer's broker or if seller's paying buyer's broker and how much.
Right. Well, certainly that's true for our agents because we will have that in place.
Mm-hmm.
Remember who we're dealing with out there. They may or may not have this in place.
We're the listing broker here, the buyer's broker.
The listing broker here, but I'm thinking that would probably be a good text to copy and save to send to other brokerages if they don't send. Most of the time when you pick up or call or confirm a showing, I have seen them send back showing confirmed, compensation offered. That's 2 of those have done it, or the others have said it verbally over the phone.
Right. Well, that's my point. They say it verbally over the phone. Is it enforceable? No.
No, it's not. But then you know what you're going to get with when you make the offer. And then I just ask for them to send it over.
Yeah, I want a form signed by the broker who's paying me or the seller who's paying me, not a text message from an agent who said, yeah.
Yes.
Right. So I just didn't think that was a very good idea.
So just request them to send the buyer broker agreement.
Yep.
I'm not the buyer broker, the compensation agreement.
Compensation agreement. Okay, we did that one.
Amy, send her to us. Let's recruit her. You get a bonus and we will too, and we'll get an agent that will know what they're doing in the market. Win for everybody.
Yep. Okay, what else I got in here?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I mean,
she definitely needs to come with us. Amy said that was the broker.
Oh God. Yes. Here's your sign. Okay, I'm gonna make this a little bigger because it's not right. I had an agent reach out to make sure she filled out the box correctly. Please do that. If you're uncertain, run it by one of us and say, are we okay with this? Because we do charge a transaction fee. In our old listing agreement, and the listing agreement was written in 325, 3% plus 325 transaction fee. This field says purchase or exchange percent. Our agent typed in 2.5% right here. That's not the right field. This is the right field. Or it would be 2.5% plus $325. So they gave us a provision to ask for a transaction fee in paragraph 7A, but we only filled out this one and left out the transaction fee. So make sure you're doing the second one and adding the transaction fee in the dollar amount column. Okay, so it's paragraph, 7A. And I'm not picking on anybody. It's all new, right? And
absolutely.
Thank goodness we have a back office team that's double checking all this stuff for us. So you guys can sleep easy because they know what they're doing.
100%.
That's a peace of mind situation.
And I would much rather people be writing contracts and us helping them with that than not be writing contracts. So, and the only way to get better at something is to what? Practice. The more we practice, the better you get, the smoother you get, just like you've been practicing those buyer broker agreements before we had to actually transition. And now it's really easy. The more you do something, the easier it becomes.
Yep. Now you got to be careful too. Other agents are getting documents and they're sending them to you. So Joe Brown's an agent in Tampa. And he asked for compensation agreement. And this is what the agent sent him. It's a Future Home Realty. They deviated, which I don't like. I was on a call yesterday with Century 21 brokers, and they were all saying, we're using the state forms because the state is responsible for their forms. And I don't want to take responsibility for my attorneys figuring these things out. So this is Bob McDougall, Future Home Realty. And it says commission agreement, buyer to buyer's broker. He sent us his buyer broker agreement. That's not what we're looking for. We wanted him to send us a compensation agreement, right? And then he's offering he wants his buyer to pay him. This is a commission agreement between the buyer and the buyer's broker. So I want 2% minus $295 of the gross purchase price. So he's given the seller $295 back. He's asking for a 2% commission. It's right. Now, if we're offering 3%, what's the benefit to our seller under box B?
They get the extra percent.
No, they don't get the extra. They don't only have to pay 5% instead of 6.
Yeah. Well,
so they're saving 1%.
It keeps it in their pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and we will probably say, because this is new for all of us, we can give one another a little bit of grace. We're not familiar with which form we need to send. Because of the way he structured it, I am sure that he thought he had the right form at the top. But that's why we've got to be careful and reread. Going forward, it's a new day for everybody. But
this broker and I actually get along. He's a very, very large company, all over the state, and he's a good guy. So I tried to call him, and he's not on my phone. So I Googled him, and I found his office number. And I called his office number, and it was a recording. It was very poor quality recording too. And it said, if you're calling about showing a listing, please call the listing agent. And then it said, if you're calling for information about compensation, please call the listing agent. Thank you. Goodbye. That was it. I'm like, ooh, what if a customer is calling saying, I would like to talk to an agent about listing my house? Which happens on a regular basis in our company.
Right.
So I figured that must be the wrong number. So I went to their company website and I saw all their office locations, and I called 3 different office locations. They all had the same recording.
Oh,
You
wow.
could not talk to the front desk of that office. Blew my mind. But anyway, so this is not
recording, or at least upgrade to an AI system. Press 1 for this, right?
Yeah, I hate those too, but
I do too, but at least you can eventually, if you were patient enough to press the buttons, get to somebody.
Right. So the point is here, this is not a compensation agreement. He shared his buyer broker agreement, which is not what we asked for. He just did it wrong. And okay, mistakes. But this one is, use common sense. Buyer is going to pay buyer broker 2% minus $295. That's not what he intended to do.
Right.
But now it's in writing. It's signed by the broker, an authorized agent for the broker. Stuff you're going to see out there, guys. Be double careful and read everything. Make sure it's what you wanted to say.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about a piece that comes over, because it is all new, and you will see mistakes made. Some of it is ignorance. Some of it's just carelessness. But that's why you have managers in your office. That's why we have our back staff. But before you have your client sign it, call the manager if you've got a question. We are glad to help you. That's what we're here for.
All right, this will be our last one. The new listing agreement is ready in our Dotloop templates. Yay. Please see attached, which shows you the new listing agreement with our standards already in place in orange. The company logo will populate even though it's not on the attached. In paragraph 11, are you wanting the box checked automatically as a transaction broker? I said yes. I'm going to show you how to fix that if you don't want that. Now that the new listing agreement is in our loop templates, you're wanting to add to the seller's compensation. Seller to broker, seller to buyer's broker. Right. So the new listing agreements, we're going seller to buyer's broker. We're not going to be paying them anymore. So prior to August 6th, we updated our files with the seller's broker to buyer's broker. We're all going forward on new ones now to just that form. Yeah, the acknowledgement and release form where the seller says I'm an idiot. I don't want to pay compensation. We're not going to put that in the loop. It's not going to happen that often. If you want to just type in acknowledgement, you'll find it. Okay. Exclusive brokerage listing agreement. Uh-oh. I think we fixed this answer. This might be an old email. You want exclusive right of sale brokerage agreement. This says seller reserves the right to sell the property directly to buyer without assistance. Please be careful of this one. I know we've replaced it. This must be an older email. So I'll check the loops again, but It should say exclusive right of sale listing agreement. That's the one we've always used forever and ever and ever. Right? We pre-checked, use a lockbox. We pre-checked withhold verbal offers. We pre-checked, seller does not authorize use of automated estimates or third-party right comments. We put in see the seller's property disclosure, so it's not left blank, and that encourages them disclosure. 50% of a consideration paid for an option. We've covered that enough, so we don't have to do it deeply today. 10% is a gross leasing fee. Now, there was some discrepancy about this during the week. We have a exclusive rental agreement. Rentals do not follow the buyer broker code. But if you are showing rentals and you want to know how much you're going to get paid, you kind of got to have a compensation agreement signed with the listing broker so you can get your $25. Or you could put the tenant on a buyer broker agreement and say, look, tenant, I can't work for $50. I'll work with you for, $1,000, $500, $1,500, 1 month's rent, whatever you're looking at. So you could do that. And that would make it more lucrative. Right? So a tenant might say, you know what,
I don't look for a house eventually in the next year or so, but they need to rent for 3, 6, 9, 12 months. Go ahead and put them under a buyer broker agreement and then send them the list and have them call the listing agents directly.
So what I recommend typically is send the tenant a list of all the properties for sale with the listing agent and have them call them directly, which is a pain in the ass. But if they don't want to go through all that, say, Rachel, I'd rather you do it for me. Well, then I charge X, and you can do that. And now you've got control, just like Julie Dinger said on Tuesday. I like this change because now my value is not being determined by the listing agent. And it's pathetic.
100%.
A friend of mine, would call me, his girlfriend's looking for a rental for $1,200 a month. I'm like, dude, there's like nothing decent out there for $1,200 a month. And I went and looked just for fun. And there's 199 properties under $1,500 a month. And they were all little 800 square foot, 600 square foot condos, but they were there. But the compensation, this is how long ago it was, the compensation was still there. It was literally $25 or $50 was what they were going to pay you for referring them the customer. Yeah, here's a quarter, call someone who cares. That's just not right. We pre-filled in 90-day as a termination period. We pre-filled in 50% of the retained deposits. And guys, I would stand up for that. If the seller keeps the money and it's sizable, if they're hurt or something, we did something wrong, we'll give the whole thing. But we have the right to get 50%. Seldom do we take it. But if it's a $10,000 deposit and the seller's getting 5 and we get 5, good. He was enriched by our efforts. So we should be enriched by our efforts too. So stand up for that. We put in a $2,000 cancellation fee. That is conditional, subject to the broker's approval. We did not check the authorized arbitration boxes. And that's it. So big lesson on this one. I'm sorry I had the wrong form. If I go back, actually, when was this email sent? August 1st. Yeah, this is 8 days ago. So I guarantee you the right form is in there now. But just know that. And be careful though, because if you're adding forms from some other place, and just make sure it's exclusive right of sale listing agreement. All right. We got, I think it's left my blue stars. You like my blue stars? That's how I keep on track.
Yeah. I have yellow stars in mine.
Let me see what Chris said here. Yeah, okay, this just happened the other day. I feel so bad. An agent called me on Monday and said, I'm going to get a listing. Which box do I check, A or B? And we had just had a manager meeting and we decided we were going to go with box A. So I told her to go with box A. And she went and she got the listing and she checked box A. And I said, no problem, because it's not the end of the world if you do it. But compensation in paragraph 8 says blank of the total purchase price, plus in this case, $325, right? But if you check A, seller authorizes broker to offer compensation. Blah, blah, blah. This amount will be paid from broker to buyer's broker. So if we only collect 3% up here and we're offering 3% down here, how much is left for us?
Nothing.
Nothing. So when you're doing a compensation and box A is your option, like it is on our current contracts, we got to make sure the total commission is in this number. And then we could put 3% in this number. Now, if you check box B, all we're going to ask the seller for here is 3%. Now, that is why we're getting 3% listings. Hey, Rachel, how much do you charge? Oh,
3%.
I only charge you 3%. And it's going to say right there, that's the compensation we get. And now further on, we're going to say, would you like to offer compensation to the other party, the buyer's broker? It's a good idea to do it. It's in your best interest. How much would you like to offer them? What do you recommend, Craig? I recommend at least 2.5, maybe 3. Depends on how bad you want to sell the house. And then he or she can make a decision. But it takes a lot of the pressure off of us, right? And then we're going to tell them in our presentation that don't be surprised if, sorry, we're looking at you over here. My camera's over here. Don't be surprised if the buyer's agents ask you to either compensate them directly or pay the difference of what their buyers already agreed to pay them, right? Because if you're offering 1.5% and they're owed 3, they get their buyer to pay 1.5, and they might ask you to pay that too. So we'll see how it goes, but it's your decision. You're totally in control of whether you want to do that or not. So when it comes to that point, I'll deliver a net sheet and I'll explain how it's going to work, and you can decide yes or no or counter. Make sense?
Makes absolute sense.
Perfectly does. Yeah, a lot of markets, Mike, they're sharing rental commissions 50-50. We always did that when we were doing a lot of rentals. I think it's worth it. I wanted people to show my stuff and get them off the market. But Tampa's just got some weird quirks to it.
We have agents who moved from Manhattan, and they were exclusive rental in Manhattan because the rents were so high, and they made 6 figures a year just working rentals. Like, you won't be able to do that here.
Yeah, well, you need 6 figures a year to live in New York City, so
at least, right?
Minimum wage, right? So we can do it either way: 6% under compensation with choice A, under 10 with the buyer broker commission be 3%, under compensation with choice B, and whatever the seller chooses to offer. Correct. And we want to go B, because I just don't want to get involved if we don't have to. B is going to be more in line with what the DOJ wants to see: the separation of control. They don't want the listing broker to be dictating what the buyer broker gets. Cool. All right, Miss Jordan, it's 9:38. I always run over time.
Just a little bit, but good meeting, good information.
Hey, I had 41 people RSVP for the flex training class coming up on Tuesday at 11. So I'm super impressed with that. Now, once again, I start telling everybody for real expectations. This isn't going to happen overnight. I'm trying to fill the bench right now. It's preseason. As we continue to do what we're doing, we're going to look really good in front of Zillow, and they're going to increase our leads. And I've got a new coach working with me starting next Thursday. And so he's going to learn all about our company and see where we are in the marketplace. And he's going to start putting in words for us to get additional territories, since they're expanding the flex offering in Florida. Okay.
Awesome.
So more to follow on that. Great info. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yes.
Everybody go get new listing this weekend.
Yep. And if you're scared or nervous about anything or unsure, just run it by us. We're really quick with email, and it'll run. Okay. Happy Friday. Be safe this weekend.
Happy Friday. Bye.